My name is Lauren Selby. I'm 32. And on my wedding day, the entire family section sat empty. 12 white folding chairs, each one tied with a sprig of lavender, and not a single person from my family in any of them. I spend my nights keeping strangers alive in the emergency room. I've held the hands of mothers whose children might not make it. I've stayed calm when everything around me was falling apart. But sitting in that church, watching my coworkers scramble to fill empty seats so the photos wouldn't look so bare, that was the hardest thing I've ever done. My dad shrugged it off, said he'd make it up to me later. What he didn't tell me was where the money went. My money. $43,000 of it. And what happened nearly 3 months later at my sister's wedding changed everything. Welcome back to Hidden Family Revenge. This is where we share stories of family betrayal and the moment someone finally says enough. New stories every week. If this one hits close to home, drop a comment and be sure to subscribe. The wedding was on a Saturday in June, Grace Community Church, east side of Knoxville. Nothing fancy. 45 guests, a local florist who did us a favor on the arrangements, and a playlist Joel's best man put together on a USB stick. Joel stood at the front in his navy suit, the one he bought on sale at Belk's, and when I came through those double doors he smiled so wide it almost made me forget to look. Almost? Because my eyes went right to the family section. 12 white folding chairs arranged in 2 neat rows, every one of them empty. The lavender was still tied to the armrests. The programs were still fanned across the seats. My maid of honor, Kara, a trauma nurse I'd worked with for 6 years, squeezed my elbow. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Joel's best man, Derek, moved fast. He pulled 3 of my coworkers from the back pew and walked them to the family section, filling 4 of the 12 seats with people who weren't my family but who showed up anyway. I swallowed hard. Adjusted my bouquet, kept walking. I've walked into trauma bays with 3 patients coding at once. I kept walking then. I kept walking now. When I reached Joel, he took both my hands. His palms were warm and steady. He leaned in, not to kiss me, not yet, and whispered, "They made their choice. So did we." I nodded. The officiant started the ceremony. And somewhere between the vows and the ring exchange, I told myself I was fine. I told myself this was fine. I was good at that. Telling myself things were fine. 12 years of night shifts will teach you to compartmentalize just about anything. The reception was at the church hall next door. Paper tablecloths, trays of pulled pork from Smoky Ridge BBQ, a sheet cake Kara's wife made. 3 tiers, buttercream, with little lavender sugar flowers that matched the ones on the chairs. It was beautiful. It was ours. Joel and I had our first dance to Stand By Me, which I'd chosen because my grandmother used to hum it while she shelled peas on her porch. Halfway through the song, my phone buzzed in my clutch on the head table. I ignored it. It buzzed again, and again. After the dance, I picked it up. 3 texts from my sister Dana. The first was a selfie. Dana in a white bikini, standing ankle-deep in turquoise water. Behind her, my father Craig wore a floral shirt I'd never seen, grinning under a sun hat. My mother Gail was beside him in oversized sunglasses, holding a cocktail with a paper umbrella. They looked like a travel brochure. The second text was a wide shot of the beach. White sand. A thatched roof cabana. Crystal water stretching to the horizon. The third text, "Best trip ever, wish you could see this water." I zoomed in on the first photo. My father's face, tanned, relaxed, happy. My mother leaning into him. Dana's arm extended for the selfie, her engagement ring catching the light. They were in the Maldives. All 3 of them. Right now. While I stood in a church hall in Knoxville wearing a second-hand dress, eating pulled pork at my own wedding, they were standing in the Indian Ocean without a care in the world. I put the phone face down on the table, walked to the restroom, ran cold water over my wrists the way I taught panicking patients to do, stared at myself in the mirror until my hands stopped shaking. 3 weeks before the wedding, that was when Craig called. I was in the hospital parking lot, sitting in my Honda after a 12-hour overnight. Dawn coming up behind the ridge. My scrubs smelled like hand sanitizer and the particular metallic tang of a night that included 2 motorcycle accidents and a cardiac arrest. "Hey, honey," he said. The voice he uses when he's already decided something and needs you to agree. "Listen, Dana's thing with Trent's family came up. The villa. Trent's parents have a place in the Maldives. It's only free that week. We're going to go." I remember the steering wheel was warm from the dashboard heater. "Dad," I said. "That's my wedding day." 5 seconds of silence. The kind of silence that tells you someone heard you but doesn't care. "I know, kiddo, but this is a once-in-a-lifetime trip. And your wedding? I mean, it's a small thing, right? 40? 50 people? You've got Joel's folks coming. You'll be fine." I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I just sat there in my parking spot, watching a robin pick at something in the gutter. "And Mom?" I asked. "Your mother agrees it makes sense. Dana needs us there. The Callaways are important people, Lauren. This could change things for the family." I closed my eyes. "Okay. We'll make it up to you later, I promise." He hung up. I sat in that parking lot for 20 minutes. The sun came up the rest of the way. The robin flew off. I drove home, showered, and called Joel. I didn't cry then either. I told him what happened in the same voice I used to relay patient stats during shift change. Flat, factual, already moving to the next task. Joel said what Joel always says. "I'm here." That was enough. It had to be. Our wedding night was quiet. No honeymoon. I'd given my PTO days to Rosa, a younger nurse on my unit who was taking her kids to Disney World. Over-responsibility is a funny thing. You don't see it in yourself because it looks like generosity from the outside. The apartment was small. Second-floor unit off Kingston Pike. 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom with a slow drain. Joel had put candles on the nightstand and a bottle of sparkling cider because neither of us drinks much. We sat on the edge of the bed in our regular clothes. Me in sweatpants, him in gym shorts. And he held my left hand. Turned it so the ring caught the lamplight. A thin platinum band. No diamond. We'd picked it out together at a pawn shop on Chapman Highway, cleaned it up with baking soda, and had it sized at a jeweler in Maryville for $30. "We picked this ring ourselves," Joel said. "We paid for this wedding ourselves. We don't need them to make this real." I leaned into him, nodded against his shoulder. He was right. I kept telling myself he was right. But every time I closed my eyes, I saw those 12 empty chairs, the lavender still tied to the armrests, the programs no one picked up. And somewhere underneath the hurt, in the part of my brain that runs triage without permission, a question was forming. Not an emotional question. A practical one. Craig had told me 3 weeks before the wedding that the family savings fund was tight, that there wasn't enough for both girls' weddings, that I should keep mine small, but a villa in the Maldives for a week, flights for 3. That kind of trip doesn't come cheap. So where did the money come from? I need to explain the fund. When I was 20, fresh out of nursing school with my first real paycheck from East Tennessee Community Hospital, Craig sat me down at the kitchen table in the Maryville house. The house he'd rebuilt after the bankruptcy, after we'd spent 4 months sleeping in the fellowship hall at Ridgeview Baptist because he'd leveraged everything on a subdivision that collapsed. I was 14 when that happened. I remember eating canned soup under fluorescent lights while Craig called contractors, trying to save something from the wreckage. He never fully recovered from that humiliation. But by the time I was 20, he'd clawed back enough to buy the Maryville house, start a small contracting business, and project the image of a man who had it together. "Here's what we're going to do," he said. "Family savings account. Both girls contribute. I manage it. When the big moments come, weddings, first homes, emergencies, the money's there." It sounded reasonable. It sounded like the kind of thing a father who'd lost everything once would build to protect his family. I signed the paperwork at First Tennessee Community Bank. Joint account. Craig and Lauren Selby, co-holders. $300 a month. Every month. For 12 years. Night shifts, holiday shifts, doubles when someone called out sick. I never missed a deposit. That was $43,200, give or take the modest interest. Dana started contributing 3 years ago, $150 a month once she got her job as a wedding planner's assistant. Her total, roughly $5,400. I asked Craig for a statement twice. The first time he said the file was with his accountant. The second time he said he'd send it next month. Both times I let it go. I was pulling 50-hour weeks in the ER. Whatever wasn't bleeding out could wait. They came back from the Maldives on a Tuesday. Craig called that evening. "How was the wedding?" he asked, like he was asking how a dentist appointment went. "Sorry we missed it. The Maldives was incredible. Trent's family has this villa right on the water. Private chef. 2 infinity pools. You should have seen the sunset, Lauren." I was standing in my kitchen, still in scrubs, holding a spatula over a pan of scrambled eggs. "It was fine, Dad." "Good, good. See? I knew you'd handle it." He moved on to talking about Trent's father, Harrison Callaway, owned Callaway Building Supply, biggest materials distributor in East Tennessee. Craig had spent the whole trip at Harrison's elbow, and from the way he talked, you'd think they were lifelong friends instead of strangers sharing a villa. I ate my eggs standing up and let him talk. Later that night, Gail posted photos in the family group chat. All 4 of them on the beach in matching linen outfits: Craig, Gail, Dana, and Trent. The caption read, "Family time is the best time." I stared at the photo. Family time. All of them there. None of them at my wedding. Family. The next morning, Dana texted me privately. "Sorry I couldn't be there, Elle. But honestly, you know weddings are my thing, and yours was pretty small anyway, right? No offense. Love you." I read it twice. Set my phone down. Didn't reply. Then came the line that stayed with me. Buried in the middle of Dana's rambling text, almost offhanded. "Dad said the fund was tight, so we kept your wedding budget small." The fund was tight. Craig said the fund was tight. But the Maldives wasn't tight. The matching linen outfits weren't tight. Something didn't add up. 3 weeks after my wedding, Dana dropped the news. Group chat. A photo of her left hand. A diamond the size of a blueberry sitting on her ring finger, Trent's arm around her waist. "Trent proposed. Wedding in 2 months. Venue already booked. The Callaway estate. It's going to be amazing." Craig replied in under a minute. "Congratulations, sweetheart. We'll make this the event of the year." Gail. "So happy for you, baby girl." 2 months. Dana got 2 months to plan the event of the year. I got 3 weeks' notice that my own family wouldn't show up. Joel was reading over my shoulder. He didn't say anything at first. Just watched my face. "You okay?" he asked. "Fine. Lauren." I said I'm fine. I locked the phone and set it on the counter. But I wasn't fine. I was doing what I always do, running triage on my own emotions, deciding which ones were urgent and which could wait. The problem was that nothing ever made it out of the waiting room. Joel went back to the couch. I stood in the kitchen for a while looking at the dark window over the sink, where my reflection looked back at me in scrubs. Craig's voice echoed. The event of the year. My wedding was pretty small anyway. Dana's was the event of the year. And the fund Craig said was tight, was apparently open for business again. I didn't know yet how they were paying for it. I didn't know about the withdrawals, the P.O. box, the receipts with names I'd recognize. But something in the back of my head, the part that notices when a patient's vitals don't match their chart, had started paying attention. If you've ever sat in a room full of people and still felt completely alone, like the one person who should have been there just wasn't, then you know exactly what this feels like. Stay with me, because what I found out nearly 3 months later changed everything. Drop a comment if you've ever been told, "We'll make it up to you," by someone who never did. The pressure started almost immediately. Craig called me 3 days after the engagement announcement. No small talk. Lauren, I need you at Dana's wedding. Trent's family is big in this community. Harrison Calloway. You know how important he is. Having both daughters there, supporting each other. That's what families do. That's what the Calloways need to see. I held the phone against my shoulder while I changed out of my scrubs in the hospital locker room. You weren't at mine, Dad. Silence. Then. That was different. The timing was bad. We'll figure it out, honey. There it was again. We'll figure it out. The same empty currency he'd been spending my whole life. Promises shaped like I owe us that never clear. Figure what out? I asked. What exactly are we figuring out? Lauren, don't make this into something it isn't. I'm asking you to come to your sister's wedding, that's all. Gail called separately that evening, her voice pitched in the careful register she uses when she's been coached. Please, Lauren, don't make this harder than it needs to be. Your father feels terrible about missing your wedding. We both do. But this is Dana's day. Can we just focus on that? You were in the Maldives, Mom, with matching outfits. I know, and I'm sorry. I truly am. But holding on to this, it'll only hurt you more. I pulled on my jacket and walked to my car. The parking lot was mostly empty. Second shift was filtering in. Has Dad said anything about making it right? I asked. He will. Just give him time. Time. Craig always needed more time. For the account statement. For the apology. For the follow-through that never came. I'll think about it, I told her. I drove home. Didn't think about it. Thought about the fund instead. Tuesday night, 11 p.m. The ER was running hot. 2 car accidents stacked on top of a kitchen grease burn and a toddler with croup. I was charge nurse that night, which meant I ran the board and made the calls. An 8-year-old came in by ambulance, clavicle fracture from a bicycle crash on Alcoa Highway. Her mother was hyperventilating in the hallway, mascara streaked down both cheeks. I knelt next to the girl whose name was Abby and talked to her while Dr. Patel examined the break. You're going to hear a click, I told her. That's just the bone saying hello to the splint. It doesn't hurt as much as it sounds like it will. Abby squeezed my hand hard enough to leave nail marks, but she didn't scream. When we finished, her mother grabbed my arm. Thank you. I don't know what I'd do without you. She was so scared. She did great, I said. She's tougher than she thinks. I walked back to the nurse's station and sat down. Rosa slid a coffee across the counter. Black, from the machine that always smelled like burnt rubber. Your family still being weird? She asked. Rosa didn't do delicacy. They want me at my sister's wedding. After what they pulled? Girl? I know. You going? I wrapped both hands around the paper cup. The coffee was too hot and too bitter, like always. I haven't decided. But I had decided something else. I pulled up my banking app on my phone during the rest of my break. I couldn't see the joint savings account. Craig had set it up to mail paper statements only, no online access. But I could see my own checking account. 12 years of $300 transfers out every month, like clockwork. All going into an account I couldn't see. Dana's wedding invitation arrived on a Thursday. I pulled it from the mailbox between a water bill and a coupon flyer for carpet cleaning. It was heavy. Cream linen stock, letterpressed, with gold foil edging and a monogram, D and T, embossed on the flap. Inside, the card read, "The Selby and Calloway families cordially invite you to celebrate the union of Dana Marie Selby and Trenton James Calloway." I held it under the porch light. Our invitations had been printed at the FedEx on Cedar Bluff. 60 cards on ivory cardstock. Nothing embossed, nothing foiled. $40 for the batch. This single card probably cost more than our entire run. Tucked behind the RSVP insert was a handwritten note from Gail on her personal stationery. The lavender-bordered kind she orders from a catalog every Christmas. Please come, sweetheart. We need you there. It won't feel right without you. I read it twice. It won't feel right without you. My wedding didn't feel right without them, but they went to the Maldives anyway. I set the invitation on the kitchen counter next to the coffee maker. Joel came home from a job site, saw it, picked it up, turned it over. You going? I haven't decided. That's what you said last week. I know. He set it down carefully, like it might be fragile. It wasn't fragile, it was expensive. There's a difference. I stared at the monogram, D and T, letterpressed on cotton rag paper. With a wedding planner, a venue deposit, catering from a Callaway-owned restaurant, and florals that probably cost more than my car payment. And somewhere in the back of my head, the triage alarm was ringing. If the fund was tight, how was any of this possible? I drove past Grace Community Church on my way to work the following Monday. It was habit. The church sits on the corner of Middlebrook and Weisgarber, right along my route. But that morning I slowed down. The marquee sign out front advertised a youth revival. Through the glass doors I could see a custodian stacking chairs in the fellowship hall. White folding chairs. The same kind that sat empty at my wedding. I pulled into the gas station across the street and sat with the engine running. 12 chairs. 2 rows of 6. Lavender on the armrests. Nobody in them. I'd been pushing that image down for weeks, burying it under double shifts and patient charts and grocery lists. But it kept surfacing. And now it had company. Numbers that didn't match, a fund that was tight, and a wedding that was the event of the year. A P.O. box I didn't know about. That's when I made the call. Not to Craig. Not to Gail. To First Tennessee Community Bank. Hi, I'm calling about a joint savings account. I'm one of the co-holders. I'd like a copy of the last 12 months of statements. The woman on the line was professional, unhurried. We can mail those to the address on file. Let me pull that up. I waited. The mailing address we have is a P.O. Box, 147, Maryville Station. I sat very still. That was not the Maryville house. That was not Craig's home address. Craig had changed the statement address to a P.O. box without telling me. That's not my address, I said. I'm a co-holder on the account. Can I pick up copies in person? With a valid photo, ID, and your social, yes. Our Maryville branch is open until 4. I'll be there tomorrow. I called in a half day, something I almost never do. My unit manager, Linda, paused on the phone. Lauren Selby is requesting time off. Is everything okay? Personal errand, I said. I'll be back for second shift. I drove to Maryville in my scrubs because I didn't want to waste time changing. The bank was in a strip mall between a Subway and a H&R Block. I brought my driver's license, my social security card, and the original account paperwork I'd kept in a fireproof lockbox since I was 20, the one Craig signed, the one with both our names. The teller was a young woman named Brooke. She verified my identity, pulled the account, and printed 12 months of statements. 6 pages. She slid them across the counter in a manila folder. Anything else? No. Thank you. I sat in a plastic chair by the door and opened the folder. The numbers hit me like vital signs that don't match the patient. You know something is wrong before your brain catches up. 6 months before my wedding, the balance was $53,412. Then the withdrawals started. $8,000 in January, $12,000 in February, $7,500 in March, a cluster of smaller ones in April, and a final $10,500 in May, 1 month before my wedding day. Total withdrawn in 6 months, $38,000. Current balance, $2,847.31. I closed the folder, pressed it against my chest, walked to my car, sat in the driver's seat with both hands on the wheel. $38,000. I knew exactly what that number meant. Not in abstract terms, in shift terms. 127 night shifts. Gone. 2 a.m., the ER was in a lull. One patient sleeping off a migraine in curtain 3, another waiting on an X-ray. I was alone in the break room, fluorescent light humming overhead. A cup of coffee from the machine sat on the table, going cold. It always tasted like burnt rubber and disappointment, but it was ritual. I spread the bank statements across the break room table. 6 pages. I opened my phone and started searching the transaction descriptions one by one. $12,000 to Paradise Resorts International. I looked it up. a luxury booking agency specializing in Maldives and Bora Bora packages. That was the trip. My money paid for the trip they took instead of coming to my wedding. $8,000 to Callaway Catering Company. I searched the name. A restaurant and events catering company, owned by Harrison Callaway, Trent's father. This was Dana's wedding reception food, paid for months in advance with my deposits. $7,500 to Elegant Affairs Events, a wedding planning company based in Knoxville. I recognized the name. It was a competitor to the firm where Dana worked as an assistant. Craig had hired a rival planner for Dana's wedding, with my money. The remaining $10,500 was split across two transactions, a florist called Magnolia and Vine, and a venue deposit for Callaway Estate Event Services. Also, Trent's family business. I looked at the bottom line. Balance remaining, $2,847.31, out of $53,400, $43,000 of which was mine. 12 years of night shifts, 12 years of holidays I covered so coworkers could be with their families, 12 years of $300 a month, pulled from paychecks that already stretched thin. I picked up the coffee. It was cold. I drank it anyway. I'd triaged thousands of patients. I knew what it looked like when something was beyond saving. This account was flatlined. Joel found me at the kitchen table at 6 a.m, still in scrubs. The statements spread across the surface like a crime scene. He pulled out a chair and sat across from me. Didn't say anything. Just looked. I pushed the statements toward him. He read. I watched his jaw tighten. The vein on the side of his neck, the one I only see when he's furious, pulsed once, twice. He set the papers down carefully. We should confront him now, Joel said. His voice was controlled, but I could hear the edges. No. Lauren, if we go to him now, he'll deny it. He'll say it was temporary, that he was going to put it back, that I'm overreacting. He'll get to Gail first, and she'll back whatever story he sells. He'll call Dana, and she'll cry, and everyone will make me the problem. Joel leaned back. So what do you want to do? I pulled my phone across the table and opened Dana's old text thread. Scrolled back to the wedding day, the selfie, the beach, the turquoise water. And there it was. Best trip ever. I stared at it for a long time. I'm going to Dana's wedding, I said. Joel looked at me sideways. Are you sure? I'm sure, but I'm not going as a guest. The break room coffee taste was still in my mouth. Bitter, familiar, grounding. I'd spent 10 years making